Hello and welcome. It's me, Martin, and I've got a new video for you about the PPP approach and what is PPP and how do you teach a PPP lesson. If you're on the CELTA course or a equivalent teacher training course, such as the trainees TEFL, then you're going to be introduced and recommended to use a particular approach when it comes down to teaching practice. And one such approach that you'll be introduced to is the PPP approach to teaching grammar and language. Now, what is PPP and what does it stand for? Well, it's essentially present, produce and practice. And it's broken down into 3 stages. The first stage is the presentation, followed by the production, and then finally by the practice. It's a very, very well recognized approach to language teaching, and it's been around for quite a while now, despite its criticisms, and it's very, very simple to train newly certified teachers or those completing a CELTA course on this approach, which is why it's so popular. It's very, very intuitive and trainee teachers can pick it up quite quickly. How do you define a presentation stage with the PPP approach? Well, I'm going to be demonstrating with you what the presentation stage is, and hopefully you'll recognize this particular stage. So let's get started. Now, I've got 2 pictures here. I've got a picture of a very nice car, and I've got a picture of a slightly less appealing car. Now, what do you think of this car? What comes to mind? And what do you think of this car? What comes to mind? For those that are, budding car enthusiasts, this is a Ferrari, and this is a Lada. Which one is better? Maybe this one. Why is this one better? It could be faster. It could be more stylish. But why could this one be better? Any ideas? More economic? It's slower, maybe less reliable, but solid. So essentially, you're introducing students to comparatives. The Ferrari is faster than the Lada, or the Lada is more economic than the Ferrari. The Ferrari is more expensive than the Lada. So within the presentation stage, you're going to be introducing the grammar point. And this is where there's the drawback of the PPP approach, because the initial stage of the approach, the presentation stage, is that there's going to be quite a bit of teacher talking time. About 70% teacher talking time when it comes down to the presentation stage. However, you can elicit particular language once you give examples to the students, and you can draw attention to particular adjectives and the actual grammar form that you want to focus on, which is the comparatives. When it comes down to the next stage, which is practice, this is where you're going to be focusing a bit more on the grammar form for students. And you can create a gap fill exercise. And much like the book that we looked at in previous videos, English Grammar in Use, you can adapt certain activities to match this stage of the lesson. So a gap fill or a sentence completion, that sort of thing, which would help the students focus in on this particular area of grammar, which is comparatives. So ER adjectives or more plus another adjective. In the practice stage of this approach, there's going to be less teacher talking time. So although it's heavily controlled, during this stage the students are either working individually or together to complete a task, and to focus in on the grammar form. The final stage of this approach is the production stage. And during the production stage, there's going to be even less teacher talking time, apart from just setting up the activity and monitoring and guiding students and supporting them when needed. During the production stage, this is the opportunity for students to become more fluent and to practice that grammar form until they become comfortable and confident using it. Certain activities that you could use during the production stage could be tell your students about 2 different restaurants in your hometown, or compare 2 different dishes. And it's really a fluency exercise for students so that it kind of ingrains into their mind. They've been introduced to the grammar, they've practiced usually in a written form, or completed a task with other students, and the final stage is to get that oral, that communication going. So you can see why this PPP approach is very appealing during any initial teacher training course, such as the CELTA or the trainees TEFL. It's very controlled for students. There's certain stages and expectations during these different stages the lesson, but also if you're going to be training a new teacher or those that are on the initial teacher training course, it's very easy to provide an example or to demonstrate each key stage, and for these trainees to replicate it in their teaching practice. It's very popular. It's been around for a number of years, and it also focuses in on the communicative approach to language teaching. The drawback, of course, which I've mentioned before, is teacher talking time is increased in the initial stage, but then this lowers as you go through the different stages of this approach. Another drawback is it is very controlled. There's really very little deviation that you can do. There's a number of other approaches and methodologies that you can incorporate into your teaching, but when it comes down to initial teacher training, it's rather controlled and fixed. And I've used this approach, I've adapted this approach, I've adapted the stages of the approach because it has some very unique value to it. If I stick to this approach and I don't change and I don't evolve, the students are going to become very bored. It's going to be very fixed and very rigid, and there's nothing else. It's rather unnatural. Looking at the grammar form, practicing, and then trying to produce it as fluently as possible. Anyway, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you did enjoy today's lesson, please hit that like button. That would be really appreciated. And also, if you haven't subscribed already, why not? Come on, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified when I upload a video, and I normally upload videos and make them available on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 1 p.m. So I'll see you next time in a future video. Take it easy, stay safe, and happy teaching. Bye bye.